Hi, this is a short summary of our paper, Young Adults May Misjudge Peers' Opinion of Verbal Consent, which was published in the American Journal of Sexuality Education, published online in 2025. So in this paper, we expanded on findings from the Applied Consent Communication Study, where we had seen in that work that there seemed to be this qualitative theme and some quantitative evidence that a lot of our students were quite comfortable with verbal consent and even preferred verbal consent, but that they were worried that other people wouldn't share their opinion, worried that they might seem awkward or weird or undesirable for wanting to talk about consent explicitly with potential partners. So what we did was we had a little bit over 150 people complete a very short online survey. This was intentionally really short, trying not to create a lot of barriers for participation here. And on this survey, we asked people how comfortable they felt with verbal consent and how important they thought it was. And we also asked them how they thought their average peer would respond to those questions, how they would rate those items. And generally what we saw is a discrepancy between our sample's actual ratings for how they themselves felt and how they thought their peers would feel. And this suggested to us that maybe, potentially, there was some more evidence to build off of this theme that we'd seen in the Applied Consent Communication Study, showing that our young adults might feel quite positively about verbal consent, but that they might be underestimating how positively their peers or potential partners would feel about the same thing. This work is preliminary, there are many explanations for what we could have seen, and it should be generalized to more samples and more data collection is needed in that sense. But this does show some promise for intervention strategies we could think about. Specifically, there are strategies to provide feedback on population norms, to show people that their perceptions of what is considered normal in their peer group or what their other peers think or how their other peers behave might not be entirely accurate. And if we can show young adults or adolescents that people actually feel more positively about verbal consent than they think they do, then that could potentially lead to some attitude change and related behavior change, although that absolutely needs to be explored much further. One thing I do want to note is that this paper is a little distinct from much of the work I do because it wasn't inherently autism focused, like our Applied Consent Communication Study was, and like much of my other work is. And this is partially because I'm hoping that we can really put some more effort into making sex education accessible for all students. And keeping in mind that oftentimes our classrooms are neurodiverse, meaning we have both autistic and non-autistic students in one classroom. And it's really beneficial to ensure that everyone is learning the same material and that everyone is able to adequately access and internalize the information that they need to. So my hope is that to make sex education better for autistic students, one way to do that is to make sex education better for everyone. And that also helps to level the playing field in terms of ensuring that our students get the same information and they've seen that other students are getting the same information as well. So everyone has a more common understanding, at least within a classroom or within a community. But really the bottom line here is that autistic students are in our classrooms. And although all educators might not always know that or might not have access to that information, some of our students might not know their neurodivergent status, we still need to make sure that information is helpful and accessible to everyone. And I think that changes like this, like talking about attitudes, like talking about fears, like talking about emotions, not only knowledge and curriculum skills, can really help make sex education a more successful experience for everyone involved. Hopefully, that's our goal at least. Thank you.